And we're live. Hello, YouTube. This is Bub's Comics, and we are the No Faces Comic Chat. I've got with me this evening, as always, Metarog making his triumphant return from a week's hiatus. Say hello, Roger.
Greetings, everyone. Great to be back.
And as always, we have DS Comics. Whenever we want to know about something old and crusty, we turn to trusty DS.
What's up, everyone? I like that. Old and crusty, yeah.
And tonight, we are, and I usually force someone else to say the name of the group, but tonight I am so proud of the name myself, and I'm going to say it myself. And we are the Ain't No Thing But a Swamp Man Things. That's us.
Oh, so, God.
You're welcome, everybody. Now, remember,
I'm sure that was more, prevalent in your head than it was in our ears.
It doesn't bother me at all.
It sounded better in his head when he came up with it than it did just now when he said it, but he won't admit it. But
I'm not going to admit that at all. I think it's great. And it reads pretty well, too, because you just don't know where it's going. You ain't no thing but a swamp man things. Like something can't be, the pluralization's got to be off somewhere, but we'll let it slide.
Oh, man. Well, at least it's apropos for the season, right? So we'll give you that.
Absolutely. Thank you. I needed that, apparently.
Yeah, we'll give you that.
And in the chat already, we've got JPL Flash Comics Geekdom saying hello, all. Hello, JPL. We got Probe 186. I'm not sure which part of New York he's from, but sure sounds like some of our old parts. And then, he says old and crusty. That's nice. And Probe 186 has a nice change from the Ass Gods. So,
oh yeah, the Ass Gods
made it through that. Yeah, I don't know if DS didn't comment on that video. I know he doesn't watch my videos anymore. He's tired of waiting for the content to improve. So.
I'll tell you, I'm so behind on videos, but I try to catch as many as I can. But I mean, the pace you put them out is greater than the pace that I can watch them. And sometimes one gets by me, but I think I've watched them all. Trying to think of the last one of yours I watched, but I've definitely been keeping up on them.
Well, I appreciate that. At least the effort. When he cares enough to lie his very best, then it's all good. Anyway, you can look that video up, everybody. It was the amalgam. I had got a AOK from Pages, Films, and Plastics, or maybe it's Pages, Plastics, and Films. I get them confused. But he sent me an AOK from Puerto Rico, and it was filled with all the amalgam comics, and that was one of them, the Thorian of Ass Gods. So check that out. We got Area 51 is here. All right. Yeah. Good to see you guys.
Good to see our Canadian brother here.
Absolutely. We like that. We got them from all over. Look, we've got 3 nations at least represented here.
Yeah, we got James there.
Yep. Let's see.
Daniel says he's from Queens.
Oh, Queens. There you go. I've been to Queens. I used to go to Shea. Well, not Shea Stadium anymore. It's Citi Field now, right? Where the Mets. Yep. I grew up, 20 minutes away from Shea.
So, yeah, that's in Flushing.
Yeah. And boy, if there was ever a place that earned its name, it's Flushing. That place is rough.
I used to spend a little time in Queens. I used to hang out in Sunnyside. I had a friend that lived there, and used to hang out there all the time.
Awesome. I know, Roger, you're from upstate too, aren't you?
I'm from Newark.
Newark, New Jersey?
Yeah.
I'm sorry about that, Roger.
Yeah, I've been there a few times. Yeah.
Thank you. Hey, I think I was 4 when I left, so I don't really remember much. All right.
All right, I'll give you a Newark, New Jersey story since we're talking about comics. This has nothing to do with comics. I had got tickets. All right, I'll make this story as quick as humanly possible, right? Well, if I'm the human. So basically what happened was that my dad had scored an extra pair of tickets to a concert, and the concert was I think it was in Newark. It was New Jersey anyway. And It was the Steve Miller Band, right? So this would have been the first time I went to a concert kind of on my own, if you will, right? So I had 2 tickets. So I was going to take my girlfriend. I was in high school. And so I was going to take my girlfriend. Of course, we couldn't drive, so it was going to be all trains and buses and all that crap all the way from the Bronx and Queens in New York City all the way to New Jersey, right? Also, the first time I would be out of state by myself, right? So anyway, he said, hey, I don't care what happens. Have a great time, do what you got to do. But the last thing I ever want to hear is a phone call at midnight saying we got to come get you. That we're not going to do. I was like, oh, don't worry, Dad, don't worry. So you can guess what happened. So we missed the last bus to the train station leaving from the concert. And we were stuck. We were stranded at the concert. And it was like, I don't know, late September probably. And it was cold. And it was horrible. My girlfriend was wearing a little dress with a sleeveless dress or something, and she was freezing. So I had to take I was wearing like a polo, of course, because it's a date, right? So I had to take my polo off and give it to her. So I'm sitting on a bench shirtless, and she's there shivering, and had to call my parents to come pick me up. Of course, it took them like an hour and a half. It was horrible. So that's my Newark, New Jersey story. You're welcome.
Wow.
Yeah.
Well, except for the visual of you without a shirt in the cold, it sounds pretty tragic.
Hey, you got the ass gods up. Nice.
Yeah, and and I guess the reason it's the amalgam of Asgardians and New Gods, and they just sort of took the the beginning of the Asgardians and the end of the New Gods and made the Asgods.
What I love about it is that they knew what they had done. It's very clear that they knew what they had done, and they went ahead and covered the word with his head just to make sure.
Yeah, you see that?
She couldn't read it. Yeah.
Yeah, you're right. And inside, there's no title. I was looking for it, and I didn't see the title. Like, where is it? Right? Like usually the first few pages. No, look. It ain't there.
Wow.
Look at that. It's a spread, right? But there's no title.
Well, did you check the spread in the rear? Check the rear spread, because it is the Ass Gods. It could be the rear spread, Roger. Look in there.
Nope. Even in the rear. Boy, it didn't take long for this one to go right down the tube, did it?
I think it might be a new record.
Right.
All right. That's enough fun. Let's get to business.
All right, we got Lawrence. We got Lawrence in the house.
Hey, Lawrence, go to Geeks. And Probe getting stuck. Every New Yorker needs a story about getting stuck in Jersey. That's about right. What else we got? York, England, is what JPL Flash says. Forest Hills, where Probe 186 is from. Hey, that's a nice place. That's where all the high class people used to live back in the day. That was the big town over there. Forest Hills, good stuff. All right, so tonight I want to talk about comics that you own. That you can't. This is going to be it's like a 3-parter, right? So you ready for this? All right, here we go. A comic that you own that you can't stop staring at. So Roger, we'll start with you because you've got to have a ton of comics. I know they had to recently. You had to not be on the show because you were having some stints put under your house so that it could hold the weight of all the comics and boxes you have in your room. So what's a comic that you own that you just, every time you see it, or you maybe even leave it out, you just can't stop staring at it?
God, there's so many. I have a few here, but man, there's so many that fit that bill. But for example, this is one of them. Gil Kane cover, very, very, lesser known Marvel title, War is Hell, but actually, the last 6 or 7 issues is sort of a continuing story, and this is one of those little story arcs that not many people know about. But if you want to read something about the gritty nature of war and the consequences, psychological and otherwise, this is a pretty good title to pick up. And I think they're pretty cheap. I don't think there's anything key about it. But look, I just love this cover because notice the Japanese guy with the katana. He's about to decapitate that lady. You know, supposedly she's bowing in obedience, right?
Right.
But then you have the American soldier there trying to stop him, and in the back is the visage of death.
Mm.
You know, and you know, these are the kind of things that, you know, probably only me and my warped imagination and mind, you know, consider this to be, you know, noteworthy. But it is just one of those things that I just think it's striking when you consider the elements and how they come together. And the story is you know, it relates to the cover also, which is always good. It's not just a pose there of something. It's actually a portent of things to come inside the comic.
Yeah, Roger, that the cover art on that one is right up my alley, as you might imagine, as well as that whole title. I really think that's a really good title. The covers are striking, and the stories and art inside are decent too. So
I know when you showed that skull that DS is going to be all about that. He loves a good skull cover.
Right.
Anything with a skull cover is awesome.
Right. Also, here's another one that, I mean, I'm sort of focusing on more the horror themed ones because that's the season, right?
Sure.
Yeah, is that Fear
I can pull out, yeah, I can pull out, you know, easily 50 comics that would fit the bill. But, you know, this is, I believe, a Gray Morrow cover. And this is a first solo series Man-Thing. And notice how he's holding that little baby. You see that in the front there? And he's protecting them from the bullets that are coming his way. And the guy in the back there says, "Stop! That thing has got Bobby. If it takes him into the swamp, it'll kill my son." Well, why are you shooting at him if he's holding your son? Does that make any sense? You're the bigger monster in this cover. He's trying to protect your son. So
nice.
Again, these are, you know, the Bronze Age covers. You know, sometimes it gives you, it gives you pause. It sort of makes you think, hey, are your actions the ones that are creating the situation, or is the situation that you're reacting to? And this is one of those cases where you're creating the situation. Probably I don't remember exactly what the story's about, but I think he is protecting that child from something, and I don't remember if it was a abusive family. There were a couple issues where that occurred. So, you know, these are the kind of things that give me, you know, in my warped mind, I keep reliving them, and I give them value because of how it affects me. And when I was a little kid and read this story.
That's awesome.
Yeah, and that's a nice bronze key there. I forget, somebody recently did a video. I think it might have been Deadpool 2323, and covered. I think it was him. It covered a bunch of the Man-Thing keys that he thought were undervalued, which I totally agree. And this is one of them. You know, Man-Thing sort of flies under the radar. I think Swamp Thing gets much more popularity these days, especially with House of Secrets 92. But Man-Thing, some of those keys are really cheap to pick up, and they're really, really good art. This one and Man-Thing #1, they did 2 volumes, so there's 2 #1s from the 70s. And then, of course, the first appearance of Man-Thing is in a Savage Tales magazine.
Correct.
So, yeah, there's just some really... And I think Ventures into Fear 19 might be the first appearance of Howard the Duck.
Yes, it is.
Also a key related to a Man-Thing title. So, yeah, I really like the Man-Thing, and that's a good book there.
Yeah. There's my Adventures into Fear 19 there.
Yeah, there we go. Nice.
And again, these Gil Kane covers on these Man-Things are really just something, you know, the energy on that around that sword, and he's swinging it in a parabolic, you know, fashion here. It's really just striking, and the work that went into this cover. And notice down here, Bob, I don't know where my Louisville Slugger is, but notice down here, it's, you know, the walkway is giving way, and the Man-Thing's about to fall down, and that's why he keeps trying to shoo him back down that way. This is
Here,
a very confusing story, though. The whole Howard the Duck thing is a very confusing story.
Here you go, Roger. I'll point that out. So this is what he was referring to. And sorry, I took your bat.
Oh, good.
And your book.
Yeah. I'm glad you got it, man.
Yeah, and who's the artist on the cover for that one? Do you know,
Gil Kane.
Roger? Gil Kane?
Yeah,
Okay.
Gil Kane. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah, no doubt. What the dead giveaway is the manifestation of the energy of the sword. That's classic Gil Kane stuff.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Nice. Well, I love all those. Those are some pretty good choices. I didn't. Well, we'll let Diaz go. Go ahead, Diaz. What have you got? What kind of books you got over there? You can't stop staring at.
Well, I put up two here that I stare at constantly all the time. These are one is definitely my favorite book in my collection, and that's the Startling Terror Tales 11, the red one there. I stare at that all the time. I absolutely love that cover. Just a fantastic LB Cole cover. It's pretty tough to find, and it's expensive. I picked this up a while ago. It's a pretty beat up 2.0 copy, but you know, it's a beautiful book, and I absolutely look at it all the time. And the other one jumps around on my favorites, and it's moved up recently. So I look at these two a lot, probably the most right now. And they also are two books I would like to upgrade. You know, the Startling Terror Tales, the grade's all right, but this one is not the best 2.0 that you could have. It's got like a ring here, like somebody put a cereal bowl down on it, and it's got a stain that sort of goes around this area. So yeah, I wouldn't mind upgrading that even to another 2.0 that just is a little better on the cover. And of course, this one is the only restored book I own. So I would like to upgrade this, but with the prices, I mean, the only way to upgrade this would be maybe like a 4.5 or a 5.0 blue label. That's not going to happen. That's just too expensive, out of my price range. So I think I'm stuck with this one, which is fine. But yeah, two I look at the most right now, and two I would like to upgrade. And there's a couple others I have that I wouldn't mind upgrading. I've got this one, Horrific #1, and that's probably a 2.0. Tough to find, but I'd like to upgrade it. I also look at that one a lot. And then these two Chamber of Chills, I have two copies of 21. I just cannot find a good mid-grade copy of this. And I've been trying for years to find this book in just a decent mid-grade, and I cannot do it. So I've been able to acquire 3 low-grade ones, one of which I sold and 2 of which I still have.
What's wrong with that one on the right? It looks pretty good. The color spread is pretty good.
Thinking. I see the one on the left has something written in the first L, so I could see that one, but the one on the right looks perfect.
Yeah, the color spread looks really well. Looks really good.
So yeah, the one on the left is lower grade. There's some wear around it, and it's pretty beat up, but it's completely attached to both staples. So, you know, this is probably a 3. This one presents much better, but the cover is detached at the top or bottom staple. I can't remember. Yeah, so that detachment, you know, drops the grade down, and it's got a lot of wear on the spine. It looks like it's either been pressed or just in a stack of books for a number of years, where it's just ended up sort of in a pressed condition. And you won't be able to see it on the screen here, but the spine is really beat up. It's just pressed really flat, and then the cover's detached at one staple. So, you know, these books are hard to find, and they're pricey. You know, I'm happy with these. I just, you know, there's a couple books I like to upgrade, and I have a lot of low-grade books that, you know, I'm not looking to upgrade, but I'm trying to complete a run of Chamber of Chills, so I would really like to upgrade those. And then finally, this one is just another one I look at all the time. Not something I want to upgrade. This title's impossible to find in anything higher than like a 4 or 5 anyway. I think like the highest grade on the census for this is a 5 or 5.5 anyway. So this is probably 2.5 or 3. Ventures into Darkness #7. It's an Alex Toth cover, and it's just a phenomenal cover I look at all the time. I just absolutely love this cover.
Yeah, I love the way he drew that moss, you know, growing down on that, on the above that. See above that there, and then you got the eyes over to the right of that, whatever that is. Is that part of a tree or something?
Yeah, well, the eyes are behind the tree and under the branch, so you can't really tell what creature that is peering through the darkness. But there's like, yeah, almost like some type of moss dripping or growing off that branch. And then in the lower right, there's this sort of like pinkish skull with a snake crawling through it. And of course, this ogre is hauling these two off. And there's a castle in the background on the left. And then you've got some really elongated bats in front of that full moon.
Yeah. And obviously, whoever he's carrying was chained up in a dungeon or something, because he's got shackles on his feet and on his left arm.
Right.
It looks like a rescue.
Well, and he looks pretty disheveled. So
I haven't read this in a while. I can't remember. I've had this for several years. And when I get books like these, every time you read them, they get in a little worse condition. Just handling these over time, this book's about 60 years old or something, 65 years old. So I usually read these once and then I put them up, and I usually will buy reprints of titles from the 50s and reread the stories from there. I don't have this in a reprint. I've got the Chamber of Chills full series in a reprint, so I can read all of those in the reprint volumes whenever I want. This one I read once several years ago. I don't even remember what it's about.
Okay.
But there you go. There's some books I look at all the time and some that I'd like to upgrade. Now I have tons of low-grade books that are just as low-grade as this that I'm not looking to upgrade. But some of these are just really important to me, and I just really want to have, for pre-code horror, Golden Age books, I just like, if I can get something in the pre-code that's like a mid-grade, anywhere from like a 4.5 to 5.5 or a 6, that's ideal for me. So.
They look really good. I've never seen that one, The Adventures into Darkness. That's a book I've never seen before.
Yeah, me either. I've never seen that before.
Yeah, that's a tough title. It wasn't a real popular title back then. It's a standard publication. They have a couple titles they put out back then, and they didn't print a lot of them. A lot of them didn't survive. And even when you find the highest grade copies of any of the titles of the standard comics, usually only hit about 5 or 6. And that's the highest graded copy in existence. This one, this is my favorite cover from this title. You just never see it. I think I saw the highest graded one on eBay a year ago or so. It sold for a good amount. I didn't want to buy it because I already had one, but this and that one are only two I've seen in the last few years.
Pro wants to know what year that Adventures into Darkness is from.
Well, I'm not sure. I will open it up and check, but it's probably a 1952, I'm guessing, but let's open it up. I haven't opened this up.
Hold on. Maybe he's asking. He says, what year was the last pre-code?
Oh, okay. So pre-code horror.
55?
Yeah, 55. I just picked up a Weird Science Fantasy number 29, and that was the last issue in that title of 1955. Right. And right after that, they did the Comics Code Authority went into effect, and they essentially ended the pre-code era. Right, so for pre-code horror, really like 51 to 55, first half of 55.
Yeah, I agree. That's the heyday for sure. After that, they went through the New Direction titles where they went to piracy and more sci-fi and things like that.
Yeah, and some of the stuff after it is just as good art-wise, but there's just the historical nature of it being pre-code gives it a little extra meaning in the history of comics. And if you're like me and you're looking for the most outrageous, gruesome scenes you can find, you're not going to find any until they really get into probably the late Bronze. They started really going heavy on some of the creep again.
Yeah, if you see some of the magazines from Hammer and those kind of Warren, they had some pretty kind of like pretty horrible covers, and horrible in the sense that they were. There were body parts and bloodletting, things like that. But yeah, in the 60s, you just didn't see that at all.
Yeah, the 60s is really the decade of the superhero, obviously.
Yeah.
And it's weird. I'm sort of an odd when it comes to collecting. Really, the only eras that I go for that I'm interested in are Golden Age and Bronze Age. Not really into Silver Age. I like Copper Age, but I've sort of put that on hold right now. and mainly what I'm collecting is Golden Age, and I sprinkle in some Bronze Age. But the Silver Age is probably my least favorite era, and I know that's the most popular comic book era out there among collectors, and it's my least favorite. So, you know, it is what it is.
If you're superheroes, then that's the era that you'd be collecting, because that's when all the Marvel characters that we know and love started. But you're not into superheroes that much. If you're into horror, if you're into art, man, you can't beat that late Golden Age period. I mean, the art was just fantastic. I mean, just absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, the Golden Age art, there's something about it that's just it's super special, and it's not like anything else in comics, and that's what I'm mainly drawn to.
I like the silver for DC. I like Silver Age DC. I think that the artwork for the Silver Age, even though it is obviously superhero, the Silver Age DC, the go-go checks, and all there's just some great stuff going on there. Flash titles, all the wacky kind of superhero titles. You got some Neil Adams run through that. You got the Lois Lane. There's a lot of yeah, Superman's
Lois
girlfriend.
Lane. How dare you mention that in the same breath as those other titles?
I can't help it. It's got some great art, and it's got some great kind of 70s funk to it. I just love it. So you're looking at that, and then you're looking at, for me, I like the Bronze Age for Marvel. And then really in the modern comics, I don't dig too many of them. And most of the time I tend to enjoy the independents more than the rest. Unless it's Wolverine, then I kind of like the independents for the modern age. So that's kind of that's my span of comic collecting. I can't afford Golden Age, so I just look at DS's collection.
Well, I say this all the time. Gold is expensive, but if you are determined to get it and you commit yourself to cutting out smaller stuff, new comics that come out, you can do it. The comics I show, I have some pretty big books in my collection. I do, but I don't make more money than anybody else on YouTube. I'm a regular guy with a regular job. I just am committed and determined to get some of these Golden Age books, and I'll save up and I'll flip some books, and I've cut out buying anything small. It's easy for me. I'm not really into the new stuff, but you can do it. I mean, I have a budget I work on. I save up, and I pick them up here and there. So it can be done. You don't need to have a lot of money coming in all the time. You just need to be determined and disciplined with your budget, and you can pick up some of these bigger books.
Yeah, we talked about that in a previous chat. Exactly how the different ways that we budget and fund our hobbies. And if you want to focus, Golden Age. I mean, if you want to talk about horror, yeah, it's very expensive. But there are Golden Age genres with like Funny Animal and Classics Illustrated that are not expensive. You can get those. And some have pretty good art. I mean, you have to pick and choose carefully, but some do have pretty good art. But you can pick those up.
Yeah, and the pre-code horror is not something that it's not like superheroes where you look for a character or you try to complete a run. With pre-code horror, you get what you can get when you can get it and what's in your budget. You don't stick within a title, because it's not like you can go out and find Adventures in the Darkness and fill out the run.
Oh, no.
That's not happening. So,
no.
I mean, even these ones I picked up, this Adventures in the Darkness, I only paid like $75 for that. So that's, $75. These two Chamber of Chills, I think combined, I paid probably $500 for those two combined. I paid $250 or thereabouts for this Horrific. And then, this one I saved up for, the Startling Terror Tales, and that was expensive. And then the Chamber of Chills 19. Yeah, I paid.
We didn't get an amount there.
Well,
I'll tell you, it was in the ballpark.
Expensive.
It was in the ballpark of $1,000. So, I mean, that was one I had to save up and put aside money, and then wait till I saw it, and then hopefully get one. And there was a couple low grade ones that came up that year, and I snagged one. And then this one I picked up for $700. That's, it's expensive, but $700 is doable if you save up. What I do for books like these is I don't say, oh, I'm going to save up $700 and get a Chamber of Chills 19. No, I say I'm going to save up, anywhere from $800 to $1,200, which is going to take a while. And then once I get enough to work with, I see what comes up, that's on my sort of big grails list. And when one comes up that I like and I have the budget, I get it. But you know, once you're there and you're like, all right, I got enough. Let's see what comes up so I can get one of these big books. While you're waiting, the weeks and sometimes months go by, you add more and more to your budget. And then finally, when something does come up, you have plenty for it. So, you know, these are not $10,000 books I have, but you know, it's $1,000, $700, something like that.
DS, what's since you already went through the book that you can't stop staring at and the books that you want to upgrade, what's a book that's on your radar? Maybe you're not looking at to get it today potentially, but what's a book that you can't wait to own because you think you won't be able to stop staring at it?
All right. Well, the only book on my mind right now, you both know what it is. I'm gonna keep that as a surprise for now, but it's at CGC, and I have probably reloaded my submission status page 50 times today. Yeah, it's been graded. I should know the grade tomorrow, and then I should have it within another week or so. And I just can't stop thinking about that book. I put it on my wallpaper, on my phone, my background, a screensaver, everywhere. So I'm seeing that book all the time, and it's not even in my hands yet. But you both know what that is. Oh yeah. So nice. Yeah.
All right, we'll give you a pass on that one then.
But I'll tell you, the other stuff on my list that I can't wait to get is some more Chamber of Chills issues, because I'm trying to complete a run of that title, but it's not like you can just go out and get them. So I wait for them to come up, and I've got about 12 of the 26 issues. So I'm almost halfway there. So that's really what I'm looking on the lookout for.
Nice. That's gonna take you a few years to accomplish. I'm sure.
It's taken me a few years to get where I'm at now. Just have almost half of the series. So I don't mind. I mean, it's pre-code is a different type of collecting. They're not out there. Even if you make a list of what you want, it's a process and it takes a lot of time. So, I'll see what comes up when it comes up, and, I'm able to set a certain budget and get a certain amount of money. And then I look and see what I'm able to get and see what comes up in some auctions. And I try not to make the wrong decision. Sometimes I'll get something, and then a week later, something else way better comes up for that amount of money. And I'm like, damn it, I already spent my budget. So
that seems to happen to me all the time. I mean, honestly, but it is what it is. When you think, oh, that's a good deal, and then but again, it makes sense, right? Because once you're out of the equation, then the next one's going to be cheaper because they're not going to be bidding up the price. But that's why I try to stay away from eBay, because that kind of stuff gets to me.
Well, what's a book that you showed, Roger? You showed your books that you love to stare at. What's one that you want to upgrade, and one that you just want?
Well, the other one I wanted to tell you that I kind of like to stare at, I got this from our pal Deadpool 2323, and it's those monochromatic covers.
Yeah,
those are just so cool. Like this one here is obviously yellow, but there are several of these monochromatic covers which I'm going to start looking out for these, because they just have such incredible eye appeal. And Mike, Area 51, this is for you. The swastika. He loves to see swastikas on cover.
Oh yeah,
yeah. You guys got to get out there and watch more videos. You know what I mean? Less TV.
What are you talking about? I watch Area 51's videos all the time.
Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Well, he loved. Well, you sounded surprised when I said about the swastikas.
Oh yeah, I was. In fact, I had just someone had sent me a comic, like they said, hey, I know you like kind of the, hate to say like smuttier comics or whatever, right? But the pretty lady, the painted lady covers, right? I was like, yeah. I said, yeah, I like those. And they sent me a picture. I think it was Cherry. It was one of the ones in the Cherry title. And she's got like swastika earrings on. I thought that was wild. I had not seen that kind of mixed together before. And I thought of Mike on that. I was like, well, he likes those.
Oh yeah. Yeah, I mean, if you want swastika, obviously the World War II titles, Sergeant Rock, Sergeant Fury, the Invaders, those have, every couple months they'll have, a swastika on them. So those would be the titles to pick up. And I do know people who collect them out, like, Hansi, the girl who loved the swastika, which Don Comic Book Junkie just picked up his 20th copy today.
Oh wow!
Yeah, I saw
shout out
that.
to Don.
That was insane. He set a goal this year of getting 20 copies of that book. Not a super valuable book, but it is sort of tough to find. I mean, if you just wanted one copy, within a year you would be able to get it. But if you were trying to collect 20 copies of that book, man, it's hard enough to find. That 20 copies would be a really tough feat, and he accomplished it today. And he said in his video he's even given 4 or 5 of those away in the past, so he's probably collected 24 or 25 of them total.
Yeah, that's right.
Yeah.
I used to have one of those, and I don't know what happened to it. I remember I got it like at a Christian bookstore or something, like back in the 70s, or late 70s or something.
Yeah, that's a nice oddity.
Don probably snuck in your room and took it when you weren't paying attention. That's how he gets 20 of them.
Unless he went to South Florida. No, he didn't. But to answer your question, upgrading, I really don't. The only ones I want to upgrade are the ones that are missing my Marvel value stamps. Like I just did a trade with Rayman the Silencer Man. I think he's in the chat. Oh, hey Simon, good to see you, buddy. Yeah, there he is, and he had a couple of Tomb of Draculas in there, that I didn't have, and the Strange Tales that I had the whole centerfold missing.
Oh wow!
So those are the kind of things I want to complete my comics that have the Marvel value stamp cut out, which probably I cut out. Yeah, when I was a little schmuck.
Yeah. DS just shed a single tear.
Yeah, I've shed many a tear, but thank the Lord that at least my most valuable ones have them. But Bub, like the Fantastic Four, the common titles, I'm missing.
Oh yeah.
So those are the only ones I really want to upgrade, and I think which is the one book that I really really want, that I want to get back.
Yeah, I know your Marvel Premiere or Marvel Spotlight #5, right?
That's right. You got it.
Yeah,
that's the one that I want to get back, and I'm saving up for it.
I gotta tell you, I see them constantly.
Yeah, they're not rare.
I think of you every time I see one, and I know that you have a pretty hard rule about how much you want to spend on it, and I've yet to see one in that price range. So
I know. There was one that, let me tell you, it was beat up. I mean, this thing was a rag. I said, "There's no way this is going over 100." What's like $160? I mean, missing a big chunk in the back and the whole bit. I'm like, huh.
When I see something like that, I have to text DS Comics, and I tell him, you better come up with a daggum good reason why I can't buy this fine, pristine looking comic with only, 6 pages missing and half the cover, rear and front removed. And, he'll usually wait like 5 minutes I'll send him like a screenshot or another of a picture. And then I'm pretty sure that he takes that next 5 minutes to actually see if he can find the eBay listing to which I'm referring, so that he can get a better idea, look through the whole thing, and then tell me it's a rag and I shouldn't buy it. And he'll call me with that information. He won't even bring it back.
That is exactly what I do. And what I do is I don't try to tell you what I do. Would I buy that book? Would I like that book to go on my PC? I try to act as your conscience and your better judgment and say, what would Bub be happy with in his collection? And I sort of try to tell you, I try to see if that's a book that you would really be happy with. And the last time you asked me about a book, it was one that it's not super rare, and that was a low grade. And when I asked you, would you put that on your wall with your other grails, you said, oh no, I would hide this away. I wouldn't even want this up near those. It's not even good enough to display. Right there is your answer. So low grade's good, but when I pick out books, I think the most important thing is, if you're going to spend money on a book, especially if you're putting bigger money out and not just $5 or $10, make sure this is a book that you're going to be happy with in your PC. And it doesn't matter what the grade is. It just matters if it's going to be good for you. Because there's nothing worse than buying a book and laying out money for it, and then when you get it, you're like, I jumped the gun. I'm really not happy with this. But now, do I really want to put money out for a different one? I've already got it, and then it puts you in that sort of regret quandary, and that's what I try to help you avoid, Bub.
Well, I appreciate that. I need all the help I can get, obviously.
Hey, it worked out on that Werewolf by Night 32 that you got, though. I think the one you have now is far superior than the one that I talked you out of buying.
Oh yeah, it's probably 3 grades higher than the one I was gonna get, and it's looks good, and it was only, all said and done, cost me cash $15 more than that rag would have cost. So I was happy with that. Very happy with that.
Bub, you really should give DS a percentage of every book he talks you out of, because
I look at it the opposite. I think I feel like,
can't wait to hear this.
Yeah, I mean, so he has saved me money, right? But basically, I'm helping to reinforce his own thoughts and beliefs. So for that, I think he owes me a small percentage on the back end, because I feel like, look, if you want to talk me out of this, you should give me like $20, and I promise I won't buy it, because at least I'll have a win for the day. I won $20. Maybe I didn't get this great comic, but I need something to pick up my spirits. I was devastated. Like the rest of that day, and then that night, that comic sold, and I was like, "Dang, man!" I felt terrible. I just was sick. I was sick the rest of that day, and like 2 more days, I was just down in the dumps over that. So, as far as I'm concerned, that whole Jiminy Cricket routine can go get stomped.
The thing here is that you're thinking short term, but long term, what really counts, what really sustains, what really matters, DS is taking you out of these, like you said, of these quandaries that that later on you're going to have a major buyer's regret, and then you have to sell that dog to upgrade it, and that's another step. So he is saving you a lot of frustration. Trust me.
Well, Roger, these young bucks, when they get up in the years, they will see time from a different perspective, and patience will be something that's easier to come by. But these kids these days, Roger, you really got to try to talk them out of making these bad decisions, because if you don't, they'll just run out and spend their money on the worst things. So we got to help these young kids out, Roger. You know what I mean?
First of all, you're not old enough to be anything but an annoying older brother to me, DS. And Roger, you gotta tell Roger that he needs to look out for the grandkids. So there's the 2 of you. I don't want to hear it. I want my books, and I want them now.
I tell you, they have Alcoholics Anonymous, they have Narcotics Anonymous. I think they should have Comics Anonymous. I think that is a necessary kind of intervention. I think we should go write Congress and tell them, hey, this is forget about opioid crisis. This is a crisis amongst collectors to the nth degree, and Bub is the quintessential example of that.
It really is. It is an obsession and an addiction, and I've been in comic recovery for a while now, so I'm not using every day. But I mean, there's some people out there throwing haul videos up every day, and when they want something and it comes up, they jump on it. It's tough not to. I mean, I used to do that all the time. I could never save more than $50, because as soon as I got 40 or $50, what can I buy? I got to buy something today. I got to buy something today. And
it's burning a hole in your pocket, that kind of thing.
Yeah, exactly. And I think a lot of us are like that. So
I start shaking actually by the peddler's mall. I feel like, how much money do I have? Well, what's tax going to be? Well, if I get some change out of my car, I got enough. I got enough. I won't stay long. They close in 20 minutes. How much shopping could I do in 20 minutes? I gotta go. Yeah.
Hey, look, Gray Man is, by the way, if you guys have not subbed to Gray Man, sub him up. He's doing a series called The 13 Nights of Halloween. And DS, I think you'll enjoy it. He's actually going through older horror books and reading the stories, and he's making a whole scenario around the story in his video.
All right. I think I'm subbed to him, but I'm subbed to so many people, and I don't have time to watch all the videos. That there's some that I try to watch. There's a few I try to watch as many of their videos as I can, you two included, of course. And then everybody else, if I don't watch their videos all the time, I'll check in with them when I can. So everybody I'm subscribed to, I watch their videos. I just don't watch all of them or all the time. And sometimes I'll watch and I won't have time to comment. I'll try to watch a couple, and then I'll go on with my day or whatever I have to do. So I'm subscribed to Gray Man. I'll definitely have to check that out.
Yeah, he puts a lot of work into it. I mean, I'm not going to spoil it for you. I think he's on his third day or something.
Okay.
But it is, and they're just like 6 or 7 minute videos. But man, they are so much fun. I mean, they're just fabulous. I just think that this guy, I don't know how he came up with this, but everybody in the chat, really go check out the 13 Days of Halloween. You're going to enjoy it.
That's awesome. I haven't been able to watch too many videos here lately either. Work's been killing me. I'm like a 3-week tear. I just getting beaten to the ground. It's just ridiculous when I can't take the standard hour to hour and a half to goof off on YouTube a day. I just don't have it. So I haven't put up many videos in the last 2 weeks, and I haven't been able to watch too many either. And when I do watch them, I watch them in my car driving. So then I can't really comment because I'm willing to take my eyes off the road, but I won't take my hands off the wheel. So,
wow, Jesus.
Yeah, that's about where I'm at. You know, safety first, or at least in the top 3.
Well, definitely watch them while you're not in motion. I mean, yeah. but definitely check them out there. I think you're going to enjoy it.
Awesome.
Oh, so Roger, before we moved on, I forgot to ask you. We were talking about that Marvel Spotlight 5.
Yeah.
You said you're saving up. Do you have a budget that you're absolutely sticking to, or is that going to be a book that you just the only one left you need for that run, and you're going to bite the bullet and just get a particular grade? What's your plan on that?
Well, I do need I think an 8 and a 10 too, but those I can pick up anytime for less than $10. I'm, with a little work,
Right.
But the Spotlight 5 is really vexing me, because I just see these really beat up copies, and I'm thinking, oh, this can't go for more than $60, and it goes for sometimes triple that. Which if the movies were hot or something, I'd say, okay, I sort of understand it, but I don't. So I'm right now, my budget is somewhere around 100. That's what I have saved up for it, but I'm going to have to go a little higher, I think, unless I luck into one, because I haven't seen one go less than 130, and I'm talking beat one that even I would not want in my collection. And I don't have high standards for my comics.
Yeah. And here's what I'm afraid might happen. That book is hot right now because it's a big key. Big bronze key. It's hot anyway, and there's been a little resurgence in popularity with Ghost Rider on some of these newer comics. I think the Cosmic Ghost Rider has led to some of that in the Thanos titles, and some of the modern stuff I'm not all that familiar with. But I hear a lot of talk out there that the rumor or the idea or the expectation is that Marvel's going to take the movies more in a underworld sort of arena.
Right. More horror themed.
Yeah, so I think, and Ghost Rider being part of that, I think is even pushing the price of that even higher. If they do an announcement that they're, doing a Legion of Monsters movie or something,
that's it.
The price is, that's it. If you don't have one by then, 300 is not going to get you a rag. So,
that's it.
I don't know if they're going to do a movie or not, but that's pushing the price, as well as the fact that it's just an awesome bronze key. So,
right. I mean, honestly, I saw the movies, and I'm generally pretty liberal as far as my likes of superhero movies, but those were next to unwatchable.
The first one's pretty good, I thought. You just put it on mute and fast forward to all the Eva Mendes scenes.
Yeah, Roxanne Simpson is great to look at, but man, I had a really hard time watching that movie. I really did, and honestly, I've watched some really horrid movies in my life. Right? But I just was like, being a Ghost Rider fan, seeing that it broke my heart, honestly, because Nicolas Cage was totally wrong for that role. Not even close to. Just because he likes the character doesn't mean he can play the character. You know what I mean?
Well, Nicolas Cage is a big comic book fan too.
Yeah, he was. He had a massive collection. I think he had to sell it off for a divorce or something.
Well, I think he sold off his collection because he got robbed a couple times, and he just figured it wasn't worth the safety risk with his family and everything in his home.
Oh, okay. I thought it was some kind of divorce or he had some bills or something. But okay.
That was probably part of it too. But I know he sold some because I remember he made a statement that he's selling off either part or all of his collection because he's been robbed a couple times, and it's just not worth the risk to his family to have people coming in the house for those collectibles. So I don't know.
Well, that makes sense too. Yeah, that makes sense.
But yeah, they made a lot of bad movies before comic book movies became cool. Do you know what I mean? Like the Ghost Rider, the old Green Lantern movie. You know, even the '88 Batman movie, that was a huge craze when it came out. And it was Tim Burton, I think, did that movie, right?
Yeah.
Yeah, and it had a certain charming quality to it, but you know, the Batman movies that followed it were horrible. The one with Arnold Schwarzenegger as Mr. Freeze. I mean, what were they thinking? That's a horrible movie.
Yeah, Batman Forever and Batman and Robin were, again, those are like unwatchable movies.
They really are. So I mean, until the comic book movies became cool, and like some of the best sought after cinema out there now.
I'm sorry, Gray Man says, wash your mouth out on the Green Lantern movie. I guess he's a big fan of that movie. Sorry, Gray Man. Yeah. I didn't think it was that horrible. I mean, the Green Lantern movie, I didn't think it was like super horrible, but I can't say I enjoyed it really. I mean, I watch it. I've watched it, and I can at least I can sit through it. But
I could sit through it. It was an average one as far as those go.
Yeah,
but
the middle part of that movie is very slow, incredibly slow.
Woodard wants to know when you're going to review Tropic Thunder. Not Tropic Thunder, Thunder in Paradise, the Hogan on a boat movie we talked about a few weeks back. And I'm still waiting on your review of the original Swamp Thing movie, too. So you've not been doing your homework, DS.
No, I need to watch that Swamp Thing movie, too. That looks awesome. I love those campy, old sort of movies, too. So.
Oh, you picked the right movie then. It is campy.
I forgot about that. I definitely have to watch that.
It is
watch
campy.
It during the afternoon because you'll fall asleep on it if you put it at night. It's so
have
dark
coffee by you because you have Adrian Barbeau to look at, and that's about it.
Yeah, I mean that's good enough. So I usually stay up later than the wife. So what I do is I'll try to find something to watch, and I've been on a kick of watching some of these 1940s monster movies. I watched Werewolf Meets Dracula. You know, and they have the same actors playing them. But this one, it was a Werewolf Meets Frankenstein, and Frankenstein was played by Bela Lugosi. So that was an interesting one because usually he plays Dracula.
Yeah. Usually it's Lon Chaney that plays
Lon Chaney, right?
The Frankenstein. And the werewolf was I forgot that actor's name.
I can never remember the actor who plays the werewolf's name.
I know, I can't either. It'll come to me.
Yeah. I know no one cares, but I'll give my list of comics I can't stop looking at.
Oh, I care.
I'm just kidding. This was one of the first comics that I got that I couldn't stop looking at, and it's of course Superman 204. And I recently picked up the Batman cover swipe, if you will, or opposite cover, the 608B. 608. So I love this book. I found it for $1 in a dollar bin, and I was just jumping up and down. I couldn't believe it, and I stared at it forever. Great Jim Lee art there. Absolutely love looking at that one. Another one that I constantly stare at is this one, Cave Woman #1, the Rain series. So this is like the first one of the second volume. So Cave Woman Volume 1 and Cave Woman Volume 2, and this is basically the first issue of Volume 2. They never actually volumized them, but if you're going for it, this is like the second storyline, and it starts off with the #1 issue, so I'm going to call that Volume 2. And I just love how she's sitting there. And I remember this was the first Cave Woman comic that I spent like money on. Like I had bought this one on eBay. The other ones I had just kind of found around, but this one I was really happy to get. And I just thought it was cool with, just a great cover. And I had this as my phone wallpaper for a long time too. I just loved having it on there. Of course, my Hulk 180 and my Hulk 181, I have this as my lock screen, my Hulk 181. And right now I think I have a Werewolf by Night cover for my main background for the Halloween spirit, if you will. And then keeping with Cave Woman, and I'll only show this one for a little while. The other reason that I picked this one up, because inside she, as you know, she reminds me of my wife. So when there's an interior page, it's like a splash page where she's falling out of a tree, and she goes, oh, and she just says the word oh, and then underneath it has like the sound of the limb breaking in the tree, and it says crack, like Krak, I think they spelled it.
Yeah.
And anyway, when my wife yeah, that's it. when my wife drops something, she'll say, instead of saying like, you know, oh crap, she'll say, oh crack. Like she says that all the time. So it really reminded me of her on that splash page. So I actually had found the splash page in original art that I couldn't afford and ended up buying this book instead. I was real happy with it. So that was one I got early on. I'll show this one real quick. Here's another book that I can't stop staring at, but it's probably for slightly different reasons. I absolutely love that book.
Yeah, well, I mean, the bear is awesome. I don't blame you.
He's a werewolf. He's a werewolf.
Oh, werewolf. Okay, yeah.
Yeah.
I'm looking at the screen
Lupin,
sideways,
man.
so.
Yeah, so am I. It's that one's just fantastic. I think, you know, all the, you know, nudie bits aside, the artwork is perfect to me. All the proportions are perfect. The hair is even really good. I thought the werewolf was super menacing looking, great, you know, intensity on him, and the expression, the difference in the two expressions are perfect. You know, she's not worried at all. Well, she has superhuman strength, but she's not worried at all. She's got the knife at the ready, and he really thinks he's got the drop on her, and he's just going to take her out. But there she is. She's ready. So I love that one. That's one of my favorite books too. It's got a great story, and I reread it over and over and over again. It's just a great book. One I'd like to upgrade is this one. So this is my X-Men 94. It's a 2.5 by it's a CGC says it's a 2.5. We'll have that argument.
CBCS.
Yeah, I'm sorry. CBCS says it's a 2.5. So who knows what that means, right? And and it's signed by Chris Claremont. This is a book that I still struggle. Every time I see it, I want to crack it. So this book irks me. As much as I love it, I have a love-hate relationship with it because I really, really want to crack this book out. Not because I don't like the grade. I could care less about a grade, but it's because I want to read it. And I've already read it, you know, digitally and reprints and such, but I still want to read this actual book. So I would like to, yeah.
Bob,
so
I'm proud of you.
Oh, I'm always that way. I'm not a huge slabber. I really, to me, they're not comics anymore. You know,
no, not so much that, but that you want to read the original comic.
Oh, I love the advertisements and the letters. I'll read the letters pages, the advertisements.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it's so funny because books come out once a month, sometimes twice a month, and then we've even got some that pop out weekly. And I remember, you know, when I was younger, I reread the same comic book like for 3 months, just over and over and over again. And part of the joy of rereading it, or what made it able to be reread, was that it had articles and it had the letters page, and it would have the advertisements I would, you know, mull over and over again. And just every little nuance of the book you kind of got to learn and appreciate. And they don't really do that anymore in comics. They're they just shoot the story out. It's full of nothing but in-house ads, and then they're done. And then, you know, sit back and wait till the next issue to keep the story going. And so I really want to see all the advertisements that are in this book and as it goes through. So I don't necessarily, when I say upgrade, I don't need a grade better than a 2.5, but I just want, to me, it's an upgrade if I can read it. It's already an upgrade, even if it's a 0.5 copy. I just want something I can read, because then it's a comic book again. And this right now is just signed art to me. It's not a comic book. I have to crack it out of its case to read it. And then then it loses whatever this value is. So it's just a book that vexes me constantly. So anyway, and then another one that I want to get that I think about all the time is House of Secrets 92. So, you know, what I hate about this is that, you know, I feel like even 5 years ago, this book was reasonable. It really has just shot up there. It's not climbing as hard as it was a couple of years ago, but it's still really high up there for me. And there's other books that maybe I want more, and I have lots of reprints of this one, but I really would like to have House of Secrets 92. That book is high on my list. And that's one I don't care if it's already in a slab because I have so many reprints of it. I can deal with that. But it would be really, really cool to have that one. There's one I saw at a con that sold that was triple signed. I'd like to have that because, of course, you can't get those signatures anymore. So, I thought that I probably should have bought that, but it was like $1,200. I didn't want to break the bank for that. There were other books I was after. So anyway, those are my books. I know by request, Roger wants me to leave it on this one for the rest of the night, but I won't. I'll put it I'll put it on that one.
What are you intimating?
I think that you like werewolves.
That yes, I like werewolves?
You're a big werewolf fan. I thought intimating was when you ate a whole box of donuts. I'm not quite sure.
No, that's incubating. That's not intimating.
Oh, my mistake.
Yeah.
That House of Secrets 92, there are deals to be had on that book if you have the money and you want to flip it. But if you're just looking to buy one for your collection, I mean, even like 2.5s, the asking prices are like $700 on those now, $900. It's insanely high price book. But I mean, you can get, there's a couple, I actually made an offer on one. I wasn't able to work out a deal with the seller. But it looks to me to be, a 6.5 or a 7. And I think you could score it probably for, $1,100 or $1,200, but that's a ton of money to lay out for a book. But if you could buy some of these raw books of House of Secrets 92 and get them pressed and graded and flip them and make several $100s off of some of the ones that are out there. But you're right, Bub. If you're just looking to pick up a low grade copy for your collection, I mean, even the 2s and 2.5s are being priced, creeping up towards 1,000. It's insanely high, and there's not a lot of those out there. It's not like a whole quantity one or ASM 129 or any of these other bronze keys. There's you do a search on eBay, even you're only going to come up with 15 results or so.
Yeah, and I think the good news is that because of the age of it and the type of book it is, I don't mind if it has quite a bit of wear. Creases aren't going to bother me. I want staples attached. I don't want any rust, and I want a relatively clean cover, but it can have creases. And spine ticks and creases don't bother me on those. On any of this kind of Bronze Age books, the creases, they don't bother me at all. They really don't. I don't want any holes. I don't want any stains. I don't want any pen marks or anything like that or writing on the cover. But other than that, I'm pretty liberal with what I'll allow the condition of the cover to be. As long as it's complete, attached, and doesn't have any kind of stains or writing on it, then I'm happy with that. So, but like Roger says, it doesn't really matter. You can drop your standards to the floor and you still can't find a book reasonably priced. It's a corner of a book, and if they want a couple of $100, so it's a shame.
Well, Pope Cerebus in the chat is asking, what does a book like that top off at? I think he's talking about House of Secrets 92 that we're discussing. I mean, to answer that question from my perspective, if once you start getting into like the very fine plus and the near mint ranges, you're looking at people that are just looking for a super high grade, and those prices are not representative of the general public and collectors that just want to copy that book. But when you get into the 7.5 to 8.0 range, it's $3,000 to $4,000 asking prices. $2,500 to $3,000 is probably what you're going to be spending. A 7.5 copy of that these days. So it's a really, really expensive book.
I should have held on to my copy. Yikes!
What'd you do with it?
I traded it like back in the early 90s, I think. It wasn't that. It was maybe a 5.0. But back then they were like everywhere. I mean, I got that out of a back issue sale for $5.
Nice.
I mean, Pope's saying he's got a copy he thinks is a 7.5 to 8.5. So obviously it's raw. Man, that's a really solid copy of that. I mean, if you got that pressed and slabbed and you wanted to make some money and sell it, you'd 7.5 to 8.5. I mean, you're talking $2,500, $3,000 book.
Yikes!
So yeah, that's a big book.
Yeah.
Yeah, they're talking about also the Vampirella #1. Now, I've seen a couple of those at cons too, and those tend to go real high, which is funny because a lot of people don't even collect Vampirella comics, but if you were going to get one of them, that's the one you're going to get, right?
Well, I think it's a Frank Frazetta cover and a first appearance of a really cool pop culture horror character too.
And
so
she, she's right there on the cover, beautiful as can be. Frank Frazetta, first issue, had a movie. And it is, and let me tell you, you don't see those everywhere. That was not a highly printed magazine. So
even the UK version goes for big money.
You got it. Even the reprint version goes for pretty big money. Yeah. And I think Grayman, he's doing his birthday books. He was born in September 1969. And guess what came out in September 1969?
Yeah, Pages, Films, and Plastics. Looks like it has about 7 or 8 copies of that. Is that what you're saying? You have 7 or 8 copies of that stored away? If that's the original, like 1969, just original Vampirella #1 issue, that's a pretty big book. I mean, I would be happy with something like that. I mean, that's on my deep want list because I like horror stuff and I like Frank Frazetta. It's not a comic book, but it's a piece of comic art history for me. I would want a copy of that probably. I'd like a good looking 6 or 7 of that. And that's, you're probably talking 100 a point on that book, I would guess at this point.
Yeah. Yeah, that's about right.
I haven't shopped it around for a while, but 100 a point sounds like a reasonable price for that.
And I tell you, it is a beautiful, I never owned it, but I have, when I worked at the comic book shop, they had a couple and I've read it and that's beautiful. Beautiful.
It's all black and white interior, isn't it?
All black and white, but it is gorgeous stuff. I mean, it really is, one of those things where I don't know why I didn't get it way back when. I think I was trying not to, use my credit up, and it was like, even back then it was like $25 or something. So.
Wow.
Yeah, I've never owned a copy of it. I'll pick one up at some point, maybe. But yeah, I think speaking of Frank Frazetta, I've talked about this with just people that I talk to comics about, and I think I mentioned it in a video. One of the recent videos I did. Frank Frazetta stuff is super cheap right now, in my opinion. I mean, you can pick up the comic book Frazetta covers, that Vampirella, a lot of that stuff at about $100 per point. CGC 4.0 is about $400 is what I mean by that, if anybody wasn't sure. But for 100 a point, you can get most all the Frank Frazetta stuff out there. I think that's way undervalued. I mean, it's top-notch art. And his original art and the paintings sell for in the millions of dollars. Heritage auctions will routinely over the last several years have original Frank Frazetta paintings, and some of these paintings are recognizable as covers to some of these creepy, eerie Vampirella type fanzines that came out, and those are selling well in excess of $1 million. The original paintings and any of his original art, same deal. But then you want to pick up like a pretty rare, famous funnies Golden Age horror Frank Frazetta cover, 4.0, people are spending like $475. So it just seems super cheap to me. I mean, that's what I collect. The Golden Age horror and Frazetta stuff is cheap as far as I'm concerned.
We have
we need to get some more of those.
We have a new chat member, Werewolf by Lunchtime from Western.
I love the name.
Yeah, I love that name, right? By Lunchtime, get it? From Western Australia, welcome. Oh, I'm sorry, you're sick. Well, I'm sorry you're sick, sir, or I'm assuming you're sir. But welcome. It's great to have somebody from across the pond, from down under, shall we say?
Yes, if we must, go ahead.
Yeah. So Pope is asking if that's the magazine from Warren. Is he talking about Vampirella? But I think Vampirella was a Warren publication, right?
Yeah,
Metarog?
yeah, correct.
And Eerie and Creepy. Pretty much all of those are Warren publications.
Yep.
Cool.
Yeah, Eerie and then Creepy was the last one of that group.
Cool. Well, what do you say, guys? Did we do it? Did we show off some more books tonight?
Oh, this has been awesome chat today. I mean, these guys in the chat room at 19 chatting. I mean, these guys are just on fire. I mean, man, I've missed this last week so bad.
Yeah, and I really appreciate everybody who comes to our chats and participates in the chat. And I see most of these people in the chat. Most of you are here just about every week. I really appreciate it, and I know Roger and Bub do too.
Oh,
absolutely. Yeah,
you got. These guys, and they what the information they give. Oh, by the way, Gray Man said that it was Lon Chaney was the werewolf, and Boris Karloff was the Frankenstein monster.
Yes, that's right.
I think he's right. I think that was those are the iconic actors that filled those roles.
Yes, and one of them also played the monster, didn't they, or the creature?
I don't remember, but I think you're right.
Yeah. Or did Karloff also do the Mummy? I think
Karloff did the Mummy.
He did the Mummy.
Yeah, he did the Mummy.
He did both.
You know, Bela Lugosi, when he first started in those movies, he didn't speak English at all, and they would just have him phonetically repeat the sounds a certain way until he got it close enough that it sounded English, but he had no idea what he was saying in those early American films. He had no clue what he was saying.
He's got quite an accent. I want to drink your blood, you know.
Yeah, and he didn't even know what he was saying. He was just repeating phonetically
repeating what they said behind him. Yeah.
Yeah.
So there's my Karloff Frankenstein.
Oh, I think I have
from Sideshow Collectibles. And there's there's my Karloff Mummy from Sideshow. And you can kind of see the same face that they kind of use, you know. They really try and do a good job. I think they do a great job. And you can even see the little mummy's ring, and you've got the chains, you know, that's removable chains from Frankenstein too. So I really like those. These were a couple of things I threw in on one of my famous and yet infamous LCS trades, and I walked out with a couple of these. So throwing in on the deal.
Yeah, those are real nice. I like those.
Yeah, that's nice. Yeah, cool. I love those old monster movies. I mean, Saturday mornings they had them over in South Florida, the creature feature, double feature, and I would see them religiously.
That's fun stuff. I still they hold up pretty good too.
Well, yeah, they do. They do.
I think, yeah.
I mean, it's not all of them, but yeah, a lot of them do. Yeah.
Well, as true to form, we hit 20 watchers, and so now we'll go. Sorry, Tat and Murph, for running on you. Glad to have you in the chat though, and so I want to thank, of course, DS Comics and Roger for being, you know, co-hosting this event. As always, probably gonna maybe have a guest next week. Not quite sure yet, but we've been kind of peppering them in and out. And thank you. You okay there, DS? Is that you?
Yeah, I'm all right.
All right. I didn't know if he was running late. He started working on that elliptical he's got back there, or pulling bodies out of the deep freeze. That's all I know. That's all I know of DS Comics. He's got an elliptical back there that we assume he stays in shape so he can hunt people down in the park. And then he's got a deep freeze that he keeps all the parts in, and then he just invests in these grails. It's pretty awesome. All right, guys. So good night to the No Faces Chat chatters. We thank you for being on there. We were the Ain't No Thing But a Swamp Thing things tonight. Sounded better that time. It's growing on me. It's growing on me.
Keep working it, Buck. You'll convince yourself eventually.
We'll give it a shot. Thanks, guys. Say goodnight, you two.
Good night, YouTube.
Good night, all.
And we'll catch you again next week on the No Faces Comic Chat. Thank you all, and good night.